Now on Inside California Politics, another mass shooting in America, this time in San Jose.
What the hell's going on in the United States of America? What the hell's wrong with us?
Will anything change? Will lawmakers in Washington act?
The problem is we need consistency across the country.
And why the incoming president of California's largest state employee union says he won't back Governor Newsom in the recall.
And I was voted in to stop this kind of madness.
Broadcasting across the Golden State, this is Inside California Politics.
Thanks for joining us for Inside California Politics. I'm Frank Buckley in Los Angeles.
And I'm Nikki Lorenzo in Sacramento. This week, a mass shooting in San Jose is sparking new calls for gun control. Governor Newsom expressed his frustration with yet another senseless act of violence, saying it is all too familiar.
There's a sameness to this. You know, anywhere USA. It just feels like this happens over and over and over again, rinse and repeat. It begs the damn question, what the hell's going on in the United States of America? What the hell's wrong with us?
Governor Newsom is not alone in calling for common sense gun reforms. Joining us now is U.S. Senator Alex Padilla. Senator, I want to ask you about gun control measures and the mass shooting here in California in a moment. But first, let's start with the bill to establish a bipartisan commission to investigate the January 6th storming of the Capitol. While 6 Republicans joined you and your fellow Democrats, you needed 10. So the 9/11 style commission will not happen. Will we ever get the answers to how this happened and what can be done to prevent it in the future?
So look, we'll absolutely have to get the answers because the American people deserve nothing less. But let me just start out, Frank, by acknowledging that as so many people are commemorating or preparing to commemorate Memorial Day, when we pay honor to so many of the women and men who have paid the ultimate sacrifice in defense of our nation and our democracy, you know, how outrageous this vote was. January 6th was nothing but an insurrection, not just a violent insurrection, but a deadly insurrection and attack on our nation's capital to interrupt our democracy, the peaceful transfer of power after a presidential election. And for most of my Republican colleagues, not to have the backbone to stand up for what's right is a dereliction of duty, frankly. We had modeled this proposed bipartisan commission after the bipartisan commission that looked into the roots causes of 9/11. You know, and they're saying that we don't need this commission because we've already beefed up Capitol security. I mean, how short-sighted is that? That's like suggesting that after 9/11, all we needed to do was improve airport security. We know that it was a much more complex situation. And so whether it's through individual committee investigations or a select committee in the House, possibly the Senate, will eventually do the work that needs to be done. But it's a tremendous lost opportunity to do it in the ideal fashion.
Now to the horrific mass shooting here in California in San Jose. California has some of the strictest gun control laws in the country, but they haven't stopped mass shootings in our state. This week, 9 of our fellow Californians were killed in San Jose. Are more laws the answer? What can be done to better protect us?
Yeah, look, let's discuss laws and enforcement, but first and foremost, yet again, let's continue to extend our prayers for the victims and their families and the San Jose community. My heart goes out to them. Just unimaginable violence that yet again has taken place in California and in our country. Mm-hmm. The laws that are on the books are actually working, but we need more and we need more consistency. California, because of its leadership in terms of policy and gun safety laws that are on the books, has gone from being, one of the more violent states when it comes to gun violence, a couple of decades ago, to one of the safest states in America. So the laws do work, and to suggest that they're not is like saying we shouldn't have a speed limit every time you see an accident on the freeway. The problem is we need consistency across the country. When you have good, strong laws in California, but weak laws in neighboring states or elsewhere in the country, there's clearly loopholes and access to weapons of destruction that shouldn't be the case. And we saw, unfortunately, yet another incident of that in our own home state here in San Jose.
Well, here's what gun advocates say. They say this week's mass shooting proves that gun control laws don't work. Here's what the spokesman for the Gun Owners of America told the San Jose Mercury News. California's no-gun policies were completely ignored by the killer. Did that stop the mass murder? No. Did it leave law-abiding citizens defenseless? Yes. Is he wrong?
He's absolutely wrong. Again, if you look at the data, it is absolutely clear. Gun safety laws in California work. Just like the national assault weapons ban that stood for a decade actually worked for the country. But sadly, the assault weapons ban sunsetted, and Republicans have not wanted to participate in reinstating the assault weapons ban for the nation. The shooter in the San Jose incident didn't ignore the laws. He found the loopholes and worked around him. And now there, are more than 9 victims of this tragedy that could have and should have been prevented.
Here's what the polling says. A poll released this week by the Public Policy Institute of California says 63% of Californians believe that laws covering the sale of guns should be stricter than they are now. But to your point, would stricter gun laws in California in the absence of a national policy be effective? 6 weeks ago, we had you on our state town hall to ask you about that. Here's what you said about it at the time.
Different states have different levels of protections, then there's weaknesses in the entire system. So consistency in a national policy when it comes to gun safety is absolutely warranted.
You said that then. You've said the same, similar today. Congress hasn't, though, passed any gun control legislation in the period since you said that to us. But to your point, would stricter gun laws in California, in the absence of a national policy, actually be effective?
Yes, stronger laws in California can work, will work, are working. But the ideal, best solution for everybody's health and safety is consistent national policy. And sadly, it's back on the front burner.
Senator Padilla, thank you very much for your time, sir.
Thank you, Frank.
Coming up, is sooner the better for Governor Newsom? Why one state senator is urging Team Newsom to schedule the recall election right away. This week, a new statewide survey by the nonpartisan Public Policy Institute of California shows growing opposition to the recall of Governor Newsom. The poll found 57% of likely voters would vote no on removing the governor from office, 40% would vote yes to removal, and only 3% remained undecided. The poll also found views on the recall broke along party lines. A vast majority of Republicans, 78%, say they would vote to recall Governor Newsom, but just 47% of independents said they would vote for removal. Only 11% of Democrats said they would be in favor of removing the governor. Joining us now is State Senator Steve Glazer, who is urging Team Newsom to schedule the recall election as quickly as possible. Senator Glazer, welcome to Inside California Politics. Good to talk to you. I want to start with a tweet that you sent out this week saying the best opportunity to beat this reckless recall of Gavin Newsom is to have an early election. Why?
Well, the governor's done a very good job over the last couple of months in getting the vaccine out to millions of Californians. And he's put forward a revised budget that is very thoughtful and generous in how we can help the state recover from this pandemic. And so within the context of that good news, and certainly some of the more positive polling numbers that we're seeing, I think he can get this election on the ballot sooner than later, give the people of California the ability to make a choice. And I think it's in his interest to do it sooner because of the positives I just mentioned. And that's counterbalanced against taking more time into the fall, September, October, November. And in my calculation, there's a lot of unknowns out there that could change the positive movement that we've seen on his behalf, whether it's fires, whether it's kids back in school. There's just a lot of things that, you don't know about but can come your way and maybe not put your image in the best standing because of the challenging choices that a governor has to make. So my view has been the law allows for the opportunity for a quicker election. Take it. This is where you want to have the fight sooner rather than later.
All right, so let's talk about the process on that. Not only are you a former political advisor to former Governor Jerry Brown, but you also currently serve as chairman of the Senate Elections and Constitutional Amendments Committee. So the governor has asked counties to fast track their recall cost budgets. So talk about the timeline and what goes into the process of getting this nailed down.
Well, as the signatures get verified, and that's where we're at the end of that process right now, the law provides a couple other requirements before an election can be called. And two of the more significant ones is, number one, that an assessment be made at the cost of an election by the Department of Finance, and that assessment be provided, and they're given 30 days, up to 30 days for that. And then an assessment of those numbers be evaluated by the Joint Legislative Budget Committee, another 30-day period. So those have been built into the law today, but it doesn't require that you use all that time. And my suggestion has been that that 60-day period could really be done in 2 days. And so it creates a wider window in which an election could be called, in this case by the lieutenant governor, 60 to 80 days after the conclusion of that process. And so that creates a window of August through November. And that leads to the conclusion that I have made that an earlier election would be better.
The show is Inside California Politics, so take us inside the Capitol. Do your colleagues feel the same way, that this recall election should happen sooner rather than later?
I think that my colleagues in the majority party want Governor Newsom to be successful, that he has governed in difficult times under a pandemic that none of us could ever be prepared for, and he's worked very hard to do his best in that context. And so they want him to be successful. I think most were not aware that there was flexibility in the timeline that I've just explained to you and your viewers. And I think that for the Republicans that have come up and talked to me over the last week, they wish that that option wasn't there for Newsom. They'd like the election period to be elongated. The more time that the opponents have to create chaos, believe me, they will try to create chaos and combine that with the unknowns that could occur in the fall. And I think that drives my political advice to our good governor that an election sooner under the law would be a better circumstance for him.
As the saying goes, a day is a lifetime in politics. State Senator Steve Glazer, we appreciate your time here on Inside California Politics.
Thank you very much.
Coming up, a new poll shows a majority of Californians would vote to keep Governor Newsom in office, but a Republican strategist says the fight isn't over yet. The latest strategy to keep the recall effort alive. New polling numbers this week show nearly 60% of likely voters do not support the recall of Governor Gavin Newsom, but one of the Republican strategists leading the effort to recall the governor says the fight is still moving forward. Dave Gilliard joins us now. Dave, a poll this week from the Public Policy Institute of California shows only 40% of likely voters would vote to remove Governor Newsom from office if the election were held today. 57% of likely voters would choose to keep him. Meanwhile, the governor's approval rating is steady at 54%. Is this recall election dead on arrival?
No, absolutely not. You know, you have to look at the underlying factors in these polls. And one thing we see in our own internal polling is that the recall election is much closer among people who intend to vote in the recall election and those who are motivated to vote. In fact, we have it at 45-45 right now. Which means it's going to be a close election one way or the other, but certainly it's up for grabs at this point.
Well, one thing that Republicans, and your poll seems to speak to that, have going for them in this recall is the enthusiasm against a relative ambivalence from Democrats and voters with no party preference. The Berkeley IGS poll earlier this month showed 75% of Republicans have a high interest in this recall compared to about 35 or 36% for other voters. If Republicans turn out in big numbers and Democrats and others stay home, is that going to be enough to win the recall?
Well, it certainly is going to give it a huge boost. And I think you hit on it right there, is that's what should be keeping Gavin Newsom up at night, is the fact that his base voters are not excited about this election at all. Whereas voters who oppose the governor on this measure are very excited. It's not just Republicans. We're showing that 52% of independents in our own polling support the recall. Independents are the key group in any statewide election in California. And the other thing that we're showing is a large percentage of Latino voters support the recall. So we're very confident going into this that we can achieve a yes vote.
Moving to the horrific news in San Jose this week, it was the site of the 15th mass killing involving guns in our country this year alone. Governor Gavin Newsom made an emotional plea for more personal responsibility and has always advocated for more gun control measures. The Republicans who are running against him in the recall took a different tack. John Cox, Kevin Faulconer, Doug Osee all sent prayers to the victims. We couldn't find a statement from Caitlyn Jenner on the issue. Should the Republican candidates engage on this issue in some way? Do they have any substantive proposals to help protect California residents from gun violence of this kind?
Well, I think I'll leave it up to those candidates. Our committee is really only focused on the recall itself. And the fact is, Gavin Newsom doesn't have any real proposals to deal with it. And California has the strictest gun laws in the nation. We still had this horrible, tragic crime committed the other day. So I think it's up to the candidates. Right now, there are over 60 candidates who have already filed papers to run in this election. 28 of them are Democrats. There's going to be a wide range of positions and candidates available for voters to choose from.
The other high-profile candidate on the Republican side is Caitlyn Jenner, who tweeted this week that when elected governor of California, I will cancel culture and wake up the woke. As a strategist for the recall campaign, is cancel culture and being too woke the message that you think will resonate with voters in California, or does that play into the governor's campaign messaging that this is a right-wing power grab?
Well, I think what voters need to look at is what's concerning them the most. And right now, they're talking about the cost of living, the cost of housing, homelessness, and the rising crime rate. And those are the issues that I believe that any candidate, Democrat, Republican, or independent running in this election should be focusing on.
All right, Dave Gilliard, thank you very much for your time, sir.
You're welcome.
Coming up, the newly elected president of California's largest state employee union says he will not back Governor Newsom in the pending recall election, while he says the governor is on his own. The new president-elect of the largest state worker union, SEIU Local 1000, says he will not be supporting Governor Newsom's effort to defeat the likely recall election this fall, adding he can look for support elsewhere. Joining us now is Richard Lewis Brown. Richard, welcome to Inside California Politics. Great to talk to you. You are now president-elect of the largest state employee union here in California. This week you said SEIU will not back Governor Newsom's effort to defeat the likely recall election. Why not?
Well, thank you for first having me. And the reason why, when I become president, that Local 1000 will not back the recall for Gavin Newsom is simple. I got voted in to get us out of politics. And as you know, we're under a signed contract. And this governor demanded that we give up 2 days of pay for two straight fiscal periods. And I was voted in to stop this kind of madness. And I'm considered the outsider here in the state of California. I'm an independent thinker, and the voters voted overwhelmingly to put me in. They no longer want to be involved with this political jungle that has taken money from us over the years. And it doesn't matter which party the governor belongs to, whether it's a Republican or Democrat, they have always taken money from state employees and all the public sector unions. When I'm elected president, going forward, this will never, ever happen again.
Do you feel like it's that anger that, you said you're an outsider, that led to your defeat over, longtime leader Yvonne Walker? And it sounds like you're saying this anger over some of the concessions is with the governor too.
Well, I don't know if I would call it anger. I would call it state employees who are passionate, who are fed up, and they decided to come out and vote. And even though the incumbent is a very powerful, influential politician in the state of California, they finally decided to vote a person who was not trying to be a politician. They wanted someone that was real, someone that was sincere. And this is why people across the nation are talking about Richard Lewis Brown, because as you can tell, I'm not phony. They wanted someone that was serious about getting us out of politics. They wanted someone that was going to fight for them and only them and not cater to these politicians. And so they therefore voted Richard Lewis Brown, me, into office. And I'm very grateful for the opportunity to accept this challenge. And I'm going to show the whole world that you can have a union that's out of corruption, that's not bidding over for politicians, that treats its people fairly and squarely, and most of all, protects its people while under a signed contract.
All right, we got about 30 seconds left. I want to ask you one more question. The governor has said he expects to restore last year's pay cuts, topping 9%. That's expected to take place with the new fiscal year starting July 1. Is that enough for you to support? I mean, what is it going to take?
No, it's not enough. You know, that 9.23% that we lost for this whole fiscal year, we should have never lost that money because he lied to us. He said that we were in a $54 billion deficit. That wasn't true. He never proved that. Now they're saying we're $76 billion in the surplus. It's going to take a lot more than restoring our pay, giving us our 2% pay increase on July 1st. No, it's going to take a lot more money, and he knows that.
Richard Lewis Brown, President-elect of the SEIU, thank you for your time here on Inside California Politics. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
You can see more of our interviews online. Just head to your local station's website and click on Inside California Politics. Thanks for watching Inside California Politics.
We'll see you back here next weekend.